Hello YouTube, this is Hunter Surge bringing you a new episode of Buddyfight Breakdown. Today we are starting our look at all of the cards that are in BT05. Today we are starting with all of the Dragon World cards, all 29 of them. So let's get right to it. But first up, I know I said that I was going to have the next Buddyfight Breakdown weekly out soon. But I decided I'll just wait until the weekend to get that out. Wait for any more reveals that might come through the week. And I'll just be doing it then. So yeah, that's when that's going to be happening, because the weekly is supposed to be a series that happens on the weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, preferably Sunday, and um, and that hasn't happened for a while. And if I keep doing it a week after the weeklies, like the last weekly, then I'll be stuck on weekdays again, which I don't exactly want. So yeah, we're going to be doing that next weekend, and for now we're going to have content pretty regularly due to Buddyfight area. With that said though, let's get started with the Dragon World stuff. First up, we have Super Armor Dragon General Boldness. This is a triple rare and SP of BT05. It is a size 3 monster of Dragon World with 7,000 power, 4 critical, and 7,000 defense. It has the Armor Dragon and White Dragon attributes. Its call cost is pay 3 gauge and put up to 2 size 3 monsters from your hand into this card's soul. Pay 1 gauge if you do destroy an item or spell on your opponent's field, move, soul guard, and lifelink 2. This card is okay, but its cost is really heavy. It requires a really dedicated build, and that lifelink really hurts. You generally won't have gauge left over for the destroy an item or spell skill. So that's just really random. And if it could destroy monsters too, then that would be really, really good. But it can't do that. So it's not really that great. It's okay, but it's nothing special. And it makes for a nice rogue deck. Nice, interesting rogue deck. But it's not really amazing. It's not anything that should be going into all Dragon World decks or anything like that. Like, it really needs a dedicated build to even function at all. Next up, we have Super Armor Dragon Drumbreaker Dragon. This is a triple rare and SP of BT05. It is a size 2 monster of Dragon World with 7,000 power, 3 critical, and 5,000 defense. It has the Armor Dragon and Red Dragon attributes, so it can be used as fodder for Vajra Blaster, which is really good. If we ever get Vajra Blaster, that is. It has a call cost of pay 1 gauge and put it on top of a drum, so it can inherit, it can get 2 soul right off the bat if you call it over a normal drum. Act, move this card to an open monster area on your field. You may only use this ability once per turn. This ability seems to use this, but when you use it with Dragon World's brand of size zeros, this is really, really important to have, because you want to move it to the center with its own move to protect yourself during your opponent's turn, and then you need to be able to move it during your main phase to be able to place a size 0 again. So that alone makes Drumbreaker really good. It also has move, penetrate, and soul guard. 3 crit penetrate on 7,000 power. A 7,000 power body is really, really good. And when it's coming at a rather low cost, that's even better. Drumbreaker Dragon is really good, and it's really what makes drum-based decks actually viable at this point. Before they become actually really good, we still need one promo, SD Drum, but this is the card that really makes them viable. Next up, we have Venom Harp Dragon. This is a triple rare of BT05. It is a size 1 monster of Dragon World with 1,000 power, 2 critical, and 3,000 defense, and it is an Armor Dragon. When this card deals damage to your opponent, put the top card of your deck into the gauge. So it's an El Quijote. Now, it's okay, but that defense is really pointless. It has barely any power, so it can't clear anything when you might need it to. And there's a card that does gauge charging by battle much better later in the set. Next up, we have Cavalry Dragon Hyperion. This is a triple rare and SP of BT05. It is an item of Dragon World with 7,000 power, 2 critical, and the Dragon and Weapon attributes. It costs 2 gauge to equip. You cannot call monsters other than Dragonite monsters, and when it attacks and destroys a monster or deals damage to your opponent, put the top card of your deck into the gauge. Now, Hyperion is really good. 7,000 power is extremely solid, letting it hit over a lot of even size 3 walls, including the infamous Seeker. And in addition to that, Hyperion has an El Quixote effect taken on, but that's it, make back its cost. And it's an El Quixote effect that can trigger no matter what you're going after. That's really good. The only bad thing about it is because you can only call Dragon Knights while it's out, this prevents Dragon Knight decks from abusing the Boomerang Dragon size zeros. They're going to be getting their own size zero in the Golden Buddy pack, but it doesn't have the bouncing or removal from field effect, so it's not anywhere near as good. Next up, we have Dragon Knight Spartax. This is a size 3 monster of Dragon World. It is a double rare in BT05 with 9,000 power, 3 critical, and 5,000 defense, as well as the Dragon Knight attribute. It has a call cost of pay 3 gauge and put up to 3 Dragon Knight from your field into this card's soul, penetrate, and soul guard. This is really bad. This is honestly really, really bad. It only has 5,000 defense to that. Soul Guard isn't very good. It only has Penetrate. For this cost, it should be having like double attack or something. And the options we already have, like Geronimo and Napoleon, and the new one from the promo pack that I can't remember the name of right now, they're just so much better, and it'd be silly to use this guy over one of them. Next up, we have Dragon Knight Tomo, who is a double rare of BT05. It is a size 1 monster with 5,000 power, 1 critical, and 2,000 defense. You may only call 1 Dragon Knight Tomo per turn. Call cost, pay 1 gauge. When this card enters the field, if you have a Dragon Knight in your drop zone, draw a card. This is effectively Drago Archer without requiring a field investment in exchange for costing a gauge. It's really good. The once per turn restriction isn't really a big deal, and it gives Dragon Knights some much needed draw power. Next up, we have Gauntlet Sword Dragon. This is a double rare of BT05. It is a size 1 monster of Dragon World, which has 4,000 power, 3 critical, and 3,000 defense with the Armor Dragon and Gold Dragon attributes. If you have 5 or less life, you may call this card without paying its call cost. Call cost, pay 3 gauge. This is really, really bad. If you want to recrit, if you run those buff stats really badly, you'd go with Burning Lance, which just costs 2 gauge. It's not worth paying that extra gauge. Paying 3 gauge for 3 crit beater that's likely going to be taken out during your attack, if by counter destruction, or taken out really quickly by your opponent. When you can get this for just 1 or 2 gauge investment, there's just really no reason to run this, and it's a complete waste of a double rare slot. Next, we have Tomahawk Dragon. This is a double rare of BT05. It's a size 0 monster of Dragon World with 2,000 power, 2 critical, and 1,000 defense, as well as the Armor Dragon and Red Dragon attributes. It has a call cost of pay 1 gauge. At the end of the battle of this card, return this card to your hand. Now, currently we don't have Boomerang and no sign of getting Boomerang unless we get in the Golden Buddy pack, so this is really going to end up being our best bet. Unlike Boomerang, though it does have some advantages over Boomerang, of course. If it's well worth it if you can keep up the gauge, because it does cost you 1 gauge every time you bring it out. But it does have the same power, so it has the same clearing power. The lost defense doesn't really matter because it's leaving your field. And it still gets hit by all the destruction that Boomerang Dragon does, so it's also a Red Dragon, which allows it to feed Vajra Blaster and such things. The Red Dragon support it feeds all that stuff. So that is very nice that it has that benefit over Boomerang. For now, we really have no choice but to use this over Boomerang if we want a size 0 with the Boomerang effect. But it does have its benefits. Next, we have Zweihander Dragon. This is a rare of BT05. It is a size 2 monster of Dragon World with 4,000 power, 2 critical, and 4,000 defense. It is an Armor Dragon and White Dragon. Call cost, pay 1 gauge, and put the top card of your deck into this card's soul guard, and counterattack. It's okay, but that 4,000 power isn't going to be hitting that much, and 4,000 defense is really easy to hit over, especially with weapons. A double attacking weapon will just completely murder this guy, or anything with 5,000 defense and with at least 4,000 power. This just really isn't a very good card. Next, we have Dragon Knight Motonari. This is a size 2 monster of Dragonworld that is a rare in BT05, 4,000 power, 2 critical, and 4,000 defense. It, of course, has the Dragonite attribute. At the beginning of your main phase, put the top card of your deck into the gauge. This is okay, but it's losing a total of 4,000, so that's a -1 to its stats overall, for an effect that requires it to survive through your opponent's turn despite having pretty low defense. Not worth it at all. You have much better size 2 options in Dragonites. Next up, we have Dragonite Mitsuhide. This is a size 1 monster of Dragonworld. It is a rare in BT05, 2,000 power, 2 critical, and 1,000 defense. It, of course, is a Dragonite. When this card attacks a monster with critical 3 or more, destroy that monster. This is a very interesting tech-in. For example, against Brave Drum, this thing is going to insta-kill it, because it kills it with the effect, and then kills it because it has enough power. But cases like that are few and far between. It's going to be very nice for clearing out a lot of high-profile, high damage output monsters, which is very, very nice to see. It's a very nice tech or sideboard option, and it still has that nice 2 crit. Some removal like that is always very much appreciated, so it's a decent card. Our second option for Boomerang style size 0 in this set is Missile Bunker Dragon. It is a rare of BT05. It's a size 0 monster, of course, of Dragonworld, with 4,000 power, 1 critical, and 1,000 defense, as well as the Armor Dragon and Golden Dragon attributes. Its effect is Missile Launch. At the end of the battle with this card, put this card at the bottom of your deck, and put the top card of your deck into the gauge, and it has Penetrate. Now, it's not so easily reusable like Boomerang and Tomahawk, but it does have that Penetrate to compensate. It's also tied with Eagle as the highest power on a size 0. Until this card, Eagle was still the only size 0 with 4,000 power, so it's interesting that we are now seeing another size 0 with 4,000 power. Penetrate is pretty nice, and the effect is pretty decent. So if you don't think you can handle the gauge of Tomahawk, but still want to have size 0s in some form, Missile Bunker is a pretty good option. Next up, we have Dragonic Trust. This is a rare of BT05. It is a spell of Dragonworld with the Dragon and Enhance attributes. It has a cast cost of pay 2 gauge. Put this card into the soul of one size 2 or less monster on your field. If this card is in the soul of a size 2 or less monster, that monster gets penetrated and soul guard. It's an interesting card, but I think it's a bit too expensive. But a specialized ultimate body that also grants penetrate is pretty interesting, even if you can't use it with size 3s for Infernal Armor abuse. Next up is Ultimate Sword Dragon. This is a size 2 monster of Dragonworld. It's an uncommon in BT05 with 6,000 power, 4 crit, and 1,000 defense. It has a call cost of pay 1 gauge, and you may put 1 Extreme Sword Dragon from your drop zone to this card's soul, and it has Soul Guard. Ultimate Sword is pretty solid, even if you aren't using Extreme Sword. 1 gauge is the standard cost for 4 crit, and you're getting a 6,000 power beater out of it, so it is pretty decent. 4 crit monsters barely have any defense anyway, so you're not losing much by it only having 1,000 defense. So yeah, Ultimate Sword is a pretty good option if you want a 4 crit monster in your generic Armor Dragon deck, and if you're already running Extreme Sword, that is a pretty nice bonus. Next up is Great Labrys Dragon. It is an uncommon of BT05. It is a size 2 monster with 5,000 power, 2 critical, and 5,000 defense. It has the Armor Dragon and Blue Dragon attributes. If you have no other monsters on the field, this card gets power plus 2,000 and defense plus 2,000. That's still only a 7/2/7, which isn't very good, so don't bother. Next up is Dragonite Bokuden. This is an uncommon of BT05. It is a size 2 monster of Dragonworld with 5,000 power, 2 critical, and 5,000 defense, and the Dragonite attribute. When it enters the field, look at all your gauge and put as many Dragonite as you like from among them into the drop zone. Then for each card you put into the drop zone, put the top card of your deck into the gauge. This is a nice way of fueling your Dragonite requiring cards, like the Impact will be getting to in a bit. But there are so many better size 2 options in Dragonites that you really shouldn't bother. Next up we have Twin Broods Dragon. This is an uncommon of BT05. It is a size 1 monster of Dragon World with 4000 power, 1 critical, and 3000 defense. It, of course, has the Armor Dragon and Blue Dragon attributes. When attacked by this card destroys an opponent's monster, put the top card of your deck into the gauge. So this is effectively a slightly weaker Spring Heeled Jack, which is really, really good. A lot better than the triple rare LPLT that Armor Dragon's got in this set. This is honestly a must-have in generic Armor Dragon decks. I can see this being in 3 to 4 in a lot of decks. It's just really, really good. Next up, we have 1-1. This is an uncommon of BT05. It is a spell of Dragon World with the Dragon and Enhance attributes. Set, if both you and your opponent have an item equipped, both your item and your opponent's on the field get critical +1. You may only set 1-1. This is pretty bad. I don't think I need to explain why this is so bad. It can benefit you, yeah, but your opponent has to have an item, so you can't be in a situation where your opponent just doesn't play an item deck, and you benefit from this. The best benefit you can get from this card is by using it with Drago Anthem for a 4 damage turn, but really it's just not worth it. It's too much of a risk. Next up, we have what is arguably the best impact in the game. This is Dragon Cavalry Arts, the Glorious Legacy. It is an uncommon of BT05. Impact, of course, Dragon World, and it has the Dragonite and Draw attributes. You may only cast this card if you have 6 or more Dragonites in the drop zone. Doesn't have to be different. Call cost, pay 2 gauge, draw 3 cards. Of course, being an impact, this has the rather huge drawback of you being unable to use the cards you drew during that turn. But the payoff is well worth it. Dragon World is pretty well known for not having any draw power whatsoever. Well, any not life restricted draw power, and this completely remedies it. Getting that Dragonite restriction, getting the limitation off is really, really easy to do. A lot easier than getting Life Break because you actually control it. And paying 2 gauge and dropping a card to draw 3 cards is just so crazy, crazy good. It's well worth the drawbacks of it. It should be an instant 2 to 3 up in every Dragonite deck. And being an uncommon makes it super easy to get. It's just a really good card. This combined with Tomo just have skyrocketed Dragonites because they now have access to all this Dragon World stuff, as always. But now they have this crazy good draw power to back it up. Next is Behemoth Claymore Dragon. This is a size 3 monster with 7,000 power, 3 critical, and 8,000 defense of Dragon World with the Armor Dragon and Red Dragon attributes. It is a common of BT05 and costs 1 gauge. Nothing special. There's no real reason to run this outside of like a Red Dragon or General Boldness deck. There's just really nothing special about this card. Not worth being a size 3. There are much better size 3s to run. Next is Dragonite Heartman. This is a size 2 monster of Dragon World. It is a common in BT05 with 5,000 power, 2 critical, and 5,000 defense and move. This is a clone of Fang Snake Dragon. Honestly, you have better cards to be running. Red Baron can cover you on the move end. I really don't see a point in running this card. Much better things you could run. Next up is Dragonite Crazy Horse. This is a common in BT05, size 1 monster of Dragon World, 5,000 power, 2 critical, and 1,000 defense, and Dragonite. So it's a 1,000 Reaper clone. About time Dragonite's got this, but since they have Tomo now for 5,000 power beating, I don't really see a point in running this, so pass. Next is Blue Sky Knight's Bondblade Dragon, another common of BT05. It is a size 1 monster of Dragon World with 5,000 power, 1 critical, and 5,000 defense. It has the Armed Dragon and Blue Dragon attributes. It has a call cost of 2 gauge. When it enters the field, destroy one opponent's size 1 or less monster on the field, and you gain 1 life. Pretty solid. Removing a size 1 is very nice, and gaining 1 life on top of that is pretty solid since the 2 gauge is paying for the +1. Next up is Diamond Shield Dragon, size 1 monster of Dragon World. It's a common, 4,000 power, 1 critical, 7,000 defense, costs 1 gauge. Not really worth it. Not worth the gauge for something like this. Separate Rip Dragon is another common of BT05. Size 1 monster of Dragon World, 3000 power, true control, and 1000 defense. Armor Dragon, White Dragon. If you have no other monsters on the field, this card gets power plus 2000 and defense plus 2000. Not good at all, just 1000 rapier for the consistent 5000 power beating. Next up is Night Counter. This is a spell of Dragon World common, Dragonite and Destruction. You may only cast this card during an attack by your opponent's size 2 or less monster, and if you have a Dragonite on your field. Cast cost, pay to engage, counter destroy all opponent's size 2 or less monsters on the field. Since this doesn't specify where they have to be attacking, this is actually pretty solid. If you can find the room for it, this is pretty well worth running. Next up is Draconic Survey, another common of BT05. It is a spell of Dragon World with the Dragon and Destruction attributes. Destroy one spell on the field. So it's a nice side-in for dealing with any troublesome set spells, especially Katana mode. And unlike Dragon Crush, it is free, so that's pretty nice. Next up is Golden Dragon Shield, another common spell, Dragon World, Golden Dragon, and defense for attributes. Cast cost, pay 1 gauge. The next time damage would be dealt to you this turn, it is reduced to 0. It's the best budget Dragon Shield now. It's like Chillax, but you just don't gain the life. If you gain the life, that would be really nice though, because that would allow it to be used to survive impacts. And finally, we have Dragon Arms Drago Keeper. This is another common item, 6000 power, 1 critical, Dragon World, Dragon, and weapon for attributes. Equip cost of 1 gauge, and the damage that would be dealt to you, other than attack, is reduced by 1. So this is actually pretty solid, pretty nice. It's a decent 6000 power and protects you and shuts down any burn damage. It's a very nice side-in for dealing with burn decks, so consider it for that. It's just a decent, nice tech, nice side-in. So yeah. Thanks as always for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this Buddyfight breakdown. Next time we're going to be looking at Magic World, but before then we have a bunch more episodes of Rematch. Another Buddyfight breakdown weekly coming up, and then I'll be having an episode of the basics on a drum-based deck. With that said, guys, I will be seeing you later in the next video. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe for more Buddyfight analysis and news.